Hello everybody. Today's another day. Let's begin. We sure do live in interesting times. Have you ever thought to yourself, man, I sure can't talk sense into this person. No matter how hard I try, I just can't get through to them. You might even have solid evidence that you're showing people, and they don't even want to listen to you. We have a saying for that. It's called being brainwashed. What if I told you the KGB invented that, and they've been implementing it in our education system since the 80s, maybe even the 70s. Even if I showed you proof of that, would you believe me? We'll start with an example of cognitive dissonance. We've all seen it. The gender discussion.
Dr. Verma, I wasn't sure I understood your answer to Senator Moody a moment ago. Do you think that men can get pregnant?
I hesitated there because I wasn't sure where the conversation was going or what the goal was. I mean, I do take care of patients with different identities. I take care of many women. I take care of people with different identities. And so that's where I paused. I think, I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Well, the goal is just the truth. So can men get pregnant?
Again, the reason I paused there is I'm not really sure what the goal of the question is.
The goal is just to establish a biological reality. You just said a moment ago that science and evidence should control, not politics. Absolutely. So let's just test that proposition. Can men get pregnant?
I take care of people with many identities, but
can men get pregnant?
I take care of many women that can get pregnant. I do take care of people that don't identify as women. That
can men get pregnant?
Again, as I'm saying,
let me just remind you what you testified to a moment ago. Science and evidence should control, not politics. Absolutely. So can men get pregnant? You're a doctor, I think.
Science and evidence should guide medicine.
Do science and evidence tell us that men can get pregnant? Biological men, can they get pregnant?
I also think yes/no questions like this are a political tool. And
no, yes/no questions are about the truth, doctor. Let's not make a mockery of this proceeding. This is about science and evidence, and I'm asking you. You know, the United States Supreme Court just heard arguments yesterday at great length on this question. This is not a hypothetical question. This is not theoretical. It affects real people in their real lives. And you're here as an expert, called by the other side as an expert, and you've been telling us that you follow, right, you're a doctor, and you follow the science and the evidence. So I just want to know, based on the science, can men get pregnant? That's a yes or no question. It really is, I think.
I think you're trying to reduce the complexity of a lot.
I'm not. I'm trying to get, it's not complex. I'm trying to get to an answer, and I'm trying to test, frankly, your veracity as a medical professional and as a scientist. Can men get pregnant?
I think you're also conflating male and female with...
No, I'm not conflating male and female. They're two different things. There's biological men and there's biological women. And I want to know, can men get pregnant?
What you were talking about is biological...
You're not going to answer my question.
Biological males.
This isn't hard, doctor. Can men get pregnant? Yes or no?
Again, I would be more than happy to have a conversation with you that is not coming from a place of trying to be polarized and push.
I'm not trying to be polarizing. I'm trying to ask, I think it is extraordinary that we are here in a hearing about science and about women. And for the record, it's women who get pregnant, not men.
This is the exact definition of cognitive dissonance. You even see the discomfort and anger that come into play when someone's just trying to understand the facts.
You've used a phrase, I want to make sure I understand what you mean by it. You've referred to people with a capacity for pregnancy. Would that be women?
Many women, cis women, have the capacity for pregnancy. Many cis women do not have the capacity for pregnancy. There are also trans men who are capable of pregnancy, as well as non-binary people who are capable of pregnancy.
So this isn't really a women's rights issue.
We can recognize that this impacts women while also recognizing that it impacts other groups. Those things are not mutually exclusive, Senator Hawley.
Oh, so your view is that the core of this right then is about what?
So I want to recognize that your line of questioning is transphobic, and it opens up trans people to violence by not recognizing that.
Wow, you're saying that I'm opening up people to violence by asking whether or not women are the folks who can have pregnancies?
So I want to note that 1 out of 5 transgender persons have attempted suicide. So I think it's important
Because of
for
my
us-
line of questioning? So
Because-
we can't talk about it?
because denying that trans people exist and pretending not to know that they exist
I'm
is
denying that trans
dangerous.
people exist by
Are
asking
you?
you if you're
Are
talking
you?
about women
Are you?
having pregnancies.
Do you believe that men can get pregnant?
No, I don't think women can
So
get
you are
pregnant.
denying that trans people exist? Thank
And
you.
that leads to violence? Is this how you run your classroom? Are students allowed to question you? Or are they
Absolutely.
also treated like this, where
No, no, no,
they're
they're
told
allowed
that
to
they're
question.
opening up people to
Oh,
violence?
we have a good
by
time in my
questioning?
class. You should join.
Oh, I bet.
You might learn a lot.
Wow, I would learn a lot. I've learned a lot
I
just in this
know,
exchange.
absolutely.
Extraordinary.
How exactly are you supposed to reason with this person? Now, how does the KGB play into this? Let me introduce you to Yuri Bezmenov. He was a spy from the Soviet Union, a KGB agent. In 1970, as a member of the Soviet mission in New Delhi, India, he defected to the West, eventually resettling in Canada. Together, he's going to explain this ideological subversion and the active measures they take in the KGB for this type of psychological warfare. There's 4 steps in the timeline or process: demoralization, destabilization, crisis, and normalization. We'll start with ideological subversion, in his words, from the professional.
Ideological subversion is the process which is legitimate, overt, and open. You can see it with your own eyes. All you have to do, all American mass media has to do, is to unplug their bananas from their ears, open up their eyes, and they can see it. There is no mystery. There is nothing to do with espionage. I know that espionage intelligence gathering looks more romantic. It sells more deodorants through the advertising, probably. That's why your Hollywood producers are so crazy about James Bond type of thrillers. But in reality, the main emphasis of the KGB is not in the area of intelligence at all. According to my opinion and opinion of many defectors of my caliber, only about 15% of time, money, and manpower is spent on espionage as such. The other 85% is a slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages.
Very interesting, right? Have you seen any examples where people are going against their own interest and you think to yourself, wow, how can you believe that? Is that something you really want? I subscribe to the fact that most people don't. They just haven't experienced the outcome of their wishes yet. Now, let's go on to the first step, demoralization.
The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The result you can see. Most of the people who graduated in the 60s, dropouts or half-baked intellectuals, are now occupying the positions of power in the government, civil service, business, mass media, educational system. You are stuck with them. You cannot get rid of them. They are contaminated. They are programmed to think and react to certain stimuli in a certain pattern. You cannot change their mind, even if you expose them to authentic information, even if you prove that white is white and black is black. You still cannot change the basic perception and the logic of behavior. In other words, these people, the process of demoralization is complete and irreversible. To get rid society of these people, you need another 20 or 15 years to educate a new generation of patriotically minded, and common sense people who would be acting in favor and in the interests of the United States society.
And yet these people who've been programmed and, as you say, in place and
Yes.
who are favorable to an opening with the Soviet concept, these are the very people who would be marked for extermination in this country?
Most of them, yes. Simply because the psychological shock when they will see in future what the beautiful society of equality and social justice means in practice, obviously they will revolt. They will be very unhappy, frustrated people. And the Marxist-Leninist regime does not tolerate these people. Obviously they will join the links of dissenters, dissidents. Unlike in present United States, there will be no place for dissent in future Marxist-Leninist America.
Wow, even more interesting. So, I guess it's almost like setting your own house on fire. Think, for example, have you ever made a mistake in life? And if you could go back in time, would you take it back? Sometimes in life we can fall in love with an ideology and want it so terribly bad we don't think of the outcome. You know the saying, sometimes you're your best worst enemy.
The next stage is destabilization. This time, subverter does not care about your ideas and the patterns of your consumption. Whether you eat junk food and get fat and flabby, it doesn't matter anymore. This time, and it takes only from 2 to 5 years to destabilize a nation, what matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems. And you can see it quite clearly that in some areas, in such sensitive areas as defense and economy, the influence of Marxist-Leninist ideas in the United States is absolutely fantastic. I could never believe it 14 years ago when I landed in this part of the world that the process will go that fast.
Well, that's quite ominous. What do you think? Have you seen any signs of being destabilized in the United States of America?
Violating Minnesota State Statute 609.50, obstructing the process, which will be an additional crime.
How are we getting along as a group? Are different social classes getting along? Are different races getting along? Is there any conflicts we're involved with that you might be concerned about? Let's see what Yuri has to say about the next step.
The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. You can see it in Central America now. And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure, and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization. It may last indefinitely. Normalization is a cynical expression borrowed from Soviet propaganda. When the Soviet tanks moved into Czechoslovakia in '68, Comrade Brezhnev said, "Now the situation in brotherly Czechoslovakia is normalized." This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to bring the country to crisis, to promise people all kind of goodies and the paradise on earth.
Have we seen any normalization to where people accept this now and promises have been made to us?
We have bowed at the altar of caution and we have paid a mighty price. Too many working people cannot recognize themselves in our party. And too many among us have turned to the right for answers to why they've been left behind. We will leave mediocrity in our past. No longer will we have to open a history book for proof that Democrats can dare to be great. Our greatness will be anything but abstract. It will be felt by every rent-stabilized tenant who wakes up on the first of every month, knowing the amount they're going to pay hasn't soared since the month before. It will be felt by each grandparent who can afford to stay in the home they have worked for, and whose grandchildren live nearby because the cost of childcare didn't send them to Long Island. It will be felt by the single mother who is safe on her commute and whose bus runs fast enough that she doesn't have to rush school drop-off to make it to work on time. And it will be felt when New Yorkers open their newspapers in the morning and read headlines of success, not scandal. Most of all, it will be felt by each New Yorker when the city they love finally loves them back. Together, New York, we're going to freeze the... Together, New York, we're going to make buses fast and... Together, New York, we're going to deliver universal... Let the words we've spoken together, the dreams we've dreamt together, become the agenda we deliver together. New York, this power, it's yours. This city belongs to you. Thank you.
To destabilize your economy, to eliminate the principle of free market competition, and to put a big brother government in Washington, D.C., with benevolent dictators like Walter Mondale, who will promise lots of things, never mind whether the promises are fulfillable or not.
Since Mayor Mamdani took office, powered by the promise of making the nation's largest city more affordable. But now he's floating this idea of raising property taxes for all. And New Yorkers, well, we know they're never shy to share their own opinions. Eyewitness News reporter Stefan Kim with their message for the mayor tonight.
I don't plan to move. It's my home. I'm not leaving.
This two-story single-family home in Cambria Heights is Vivian Campbell's American dream come true. His starter home that has become his forever home.
The greatest thing to happen to me.
He bought it just after graduating college in the 1990s. If you step inside, he even has a stack of CDs to prove it. The retired real estate professional, who was on a fixed income, recently poured almost $35,000 into a new front porch and a new roof. But now with Mayor Mamdani proposing a property tax increase, he feels duped.
Do you feel like he lied to you?
He'll not feel. He lied. Not feel. It's obvious.
That's why Campbell was among the dozens of homeowners in Southeast Queens who turned out for what they say was an emergency response to the mayor.
Mayor Zoran Mamdani, you are out your goddamn mind.
To the mayor, with the greatest respect, in every campaign speech, in every debate where you engage, we opened our ears to listen. Now today, accept the words echoing from us now. Do your job as mayor and leave our taxes out.
To close a $5.4 billion budget gap, the mayor says he has two options: convince Governor Hochul to tax the wealthy, which he refuses to do, or raise the city property tax rate by 9.5%.
Faced with no other choice, the city would have to exercise the only revenue lever fully within our own control. We would have to raise property taxes.
But the city council would have to approve the measure, and Council Speaker Julie Menon says the proposal should not be on the table whatsoever. Meanwhile, Hochul, for her part, is unlikely to soften her position as she faces re-election this year.
You are giving only two options. You're saying if we don't tax the rich, then I got to increase property taxes. We are not a pawn in Southeast Queens. We are not part of your negotiation tactics.
He will go to Moscow to kiss the bottoms of new generation of Soviet assassins. Never mind, he will create false illusions that the situation is under control. Situation is not under control. Situation is disgustingly out of control. Most of the American politicians, media, and educational system trains another generation of people who think they are living at a peacetime. False. United States is in the state of war, undeclared total war against the basic principles and the foundations of this system. And the initiator of this war is not Comrade Andropov, of course. It's the system. However ridiculous it may sound, the world communist system or the world communist conspiracy, whether I scare some people or not, I don't give a hoot. If you are not scared by now, nothing can scare you.